Good evening. It is my pleasure to speak with all of you by conference call during this public event announcing our latest publication on the expulsions carried out against ethnic German minorities after World War II. My name is James Mayfield, and I am a historian from Stanford University and a professor who specializes in comparative nationalism and ethnic violence in Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I am honored that our research has gotten so much attention from the local community in Entre Rios, from the media and the press in Argentina, and also from ethnic German organizations based in the United States, Canada, and Latin America. Many expellee advocacy groups in North America are anxiously following these events and hoping to strengthen ties with German minorities and human rights groups in Argentina. I would also like to thank the city of Crespo and the province of Entre Rios for their support in organizing this event, as well as their support in raising awareness of the history of Argentina's significant ethnic German minority community and their ancestors back in Europe. It is very reassuring to see that so many organizations are working together to shed light on aspects of history that are often overlooked or simply forgotten. I think Memoria del Olvido is a very appropriate title for this book. Although the expulsion and removal of over 12 million ethnic German civilians out of Eastern Europe is by far the largest forced migration in modern history, much of this history remains simply forgotten in school textbooks and in public knowledge, not only in Latin America, but especially in the United States and Europe. It is a subject that is still firmly rejected outright by the governments of the Czech Republic, Poland, Serbia, and Russia. And every time any attempt emerges in Germany to commemorate these ethnic cleansings, diplomatic tensions and controversy appear almost immediately. This subject has simply damaged international relations for decades. For most people, the story of the millions of civilians who lost their homes and were forced to resettle in very different societies in the West remains a forgotten memory. For this reason, I am very honored that my research with Ernesto Weigandt has helped raise even a small amount of awareness of the suffering of millions of civilians. The subject of German suffering is a very difficult and controversial topic. Many people who try to raise awareness of the ethnic cleansings are often easily branded as historical revisionists, or Holocaust deniers, or German nationalists. Unfortunately, this is actually often quite true. Far too many expellees and their supporters have very nefarious agendas. Many who discuss the expulsions try to diminish the suffering of other victims of genocide and ethnic cleansing, like the Jews or the Polish nationals and victims of Nazi atrocities. This book has worked very hard to incorporate the suffering of all minorities in Eastern Europe at the end of World War II. The suffering of German civilians discussed in this book does not negate or challenge the genocides carried out by the Nazis or justify any atrocities they committed during the war. It is true, we must remember, that many civilians who were expelled did cooperate with the German military and the SS. However, we must remember that over 12 million ethnic Germans were persecuted and expelled regardless of their political beliefs. Women, children, the sick, and the elderly were expelled out of Eastern Europe regardless of their connections to Germany or to National Socialism. Even socialists and communists were expelled from Eastern Europe. For example, many Volga Germans who lived in the former Soviet Union were deported to the wastelands of Siberia and Kazakhstan before they even had a chance to help the Nazis after the German invasion of 1941. The Germans, like so many other victims of ethnic cleansing and genocide, often suffered solely because of their ancestry. Many groups like the Germans of Transylvania and Romania had not even lived in Germany for over 800 years, but their language and heritage alone made them dangerous threats to the new socialist regime, and they had to be purged. For this reason, I hope the readers of this book will view these expelled Germans as humans rather than Nazis or criminals. It is also critical to remember that German minorities are but one victim alongside many other minorities after World War II. After the war, ethnic minorities simply did not belong in Eastern Europe. Most politicians after the war agreed that the only way to achieve a lasting, permanent peace was to create homogeneous populations. Multiculturalism itself had to be destroyed. Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Poland, and the Soviet Union all participated in massive campaigns to purify themselves of ethnic minorities altogether. and with the support of the United States and the British governments. The Germans were by far the largest group that was forced to migrate to the West, but right alongside the Germans went millions of Poles, Ukrainians, Koreans, Tatars, Armenians, Greeks, Chechens, Hungarians, and other minorities who were simply no longer welcome after World War II. For this reason, I hope that the readers of this book will remember that the German victims are only the largest part of a much larger process of the systematic removal of populations with the goal to create purified nation-states after World War II. With these aspects in mind, I hope you enjoy our book and that you can expect more in the future. Now that we are living in a world that demands human rights and justice and international law, it is critical that we all work together to raise awareness of the suffering of all victims of ethnic cleansing who were persecuted solely on the basis of their nationality, their race, or their ancestry. Thank you so much for your support and your interest in our research in Memoria del Olvido.